The Quiet Weight of Growing Old, a deep reflection on depression in the elderly. Most people don't realize that depression in old age doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It doesn't roar or shatter. It doesn't scream for help. Instead, it descends like fog, soft, slow, nearly invisible, and it stays. Long after the calls from family taper off, long after the neighbors move or pass, long after the body has started its quiet rebellion, it lingers. And with it, a silent sadness that no one seems to talk about. In American culture, where independence is prized and self reliance is virtue, aging often feels like a betrayal of everything we've been taught to value. We're told to stand on our own, to contribute, to be productive. But what happens when the roles that once gave us identity begin to slip through our fingers? When no one depends on us anymore? When our calendar is blank for days? When even walking to the mailbox becomes a chore? For many older adults, depression isn't just about feeling down, it's about no longer feeling needed. The truth is, depression in the elderly isn't rare. It just goes unspoken. Sometimes it hides behind a polite smile, a quiet demeanor, or a persistent cough that brings more attention than sadness ever could. In other cases, it's mistaken for the natural slowing down of age. Mom's just tired. Grandpa's getting forgetful. She's always been a little moody. But beneath those simple explanations is often a very real pain that has no outlet, no audience, no room in the conversation. Let's step into the life of someone like Rose. She's 76, widowed 10 years ago. Her children live 3 states away, busy with working kids. She has a modest pension, a garden she once loved, and a small dog named Lulu. But these days, she doesn't water the garden much. Lulu still gets walked, but mostly out of routine. Her television stays on for background noise. The meals she prepares are small, quick. She rarely finishes them. She used to bake for the church group, knit scarves for her grandchildren, volunteer at the food bank. Now, days blend together. Morning coffee, a little news, a nap, maybe a call from her daughter every other week. She answers with cheer, insists she's fine. But after hanging up, she sits quietly at the kitchen table, staring at the birds outside the window. The silence isn't peaceful, it's deafening. What Rose is experiencing isn't just loneliness, it's a loss of connection, purpose, agency, and slowly, hope. And it's not just her. Across the United States, millions of older adults wake up each day with a sinking feeling they can't quite name. They don't necessarily feel depressed in the way younger people might describe it. Instead, it's a dullness, a fading, a quiet question whispered inside, what am I still doing here? Part of the problem is how society frames aging. In youth obsessed cultures like ours, growing old is treated like a decline rather than an evolution. The elderly are often portrayed as frail, burdensome, out of touch. The wisdom, experience, and quiet strength they hold are rarely celebrated outside of greeting card cliches. Aging becomes synonymous with irrelevance. And irrelevance, especially for those who once led rich, complex lives, is a wound that cuts deep. It's not just cultural. There are biological and psychological forces at play. The aging brain processes emotion differently. Neurotransmitters shift. Sleep patterns change. The body becomes more vulnerable to pain, which itself is a risk factor for depression. Chronic illnesses, arthritis, heart disease, diabetes create daily battles that slowly drain the spirit. Medications can cause side effects that mimic or exacerbate depressive symptoms. And because older adults are less likely to seek mental health support, these symptoms often go untreated, unchecked, and misunderstood. family members with the best intentions may not recognize the signs. They might chalk up forgetfulness to age, fatigue to poor sleep, and disinterest to personality. But a senior who once loved painting and now keeps their brushes packed away isn't just losing a hobby, they may be losing themselves. When birthdays pass without visitors, when mobility limits independence, when once active social circles shrink to near nothingness, even the strongest personalities can crack. And the guilt. Oh, the guilt. Many older adults don't talk about their sadness because they feel they shouldn't be sad. I've lived a long life, they tell themselves. Others have it worse. They don't want to burden their children who are already juggling careers and parenting, so they stay quiet. They say they're fine. They smile through video calls, make up stories to sound busy, change the subject when asked how they're doing. Depression wears 1,000 masks, and in older adults, it's usually polite. But silence is dangerous because untreated depression in seniors doesn't just stay emotional, it turns physical. Studies have shown that depression worsens recovery from surgeries, increases the risk of falls, impairs memory, and shortens life expectancy. It affects the immune system, the heart, the brain. And perhaps most chilling, the suicide rate among men over 85 is the highest of any demographic in America. These aren't people chasing headlines or crying for help. These are quiet exits, often unnoticed, until it's too late. What can be done? More than you might think. And it starts not with medication or therapy, though both are important, but with presence, with conversation, with noticing. When you visit an older parent or grandparent, don't just ask about their medications or whether they've eaten. Ask them about their day, their memories, what's been hard lately, what brings them joy. Listen without rushing. Invite them into your life, not out of obligation, but out of genuine connection. Encourage purpose. Aging doesn't mean sitting on the sidelines. Older adults still want to contribute, to matter, to give. Whether it's volunteering, mentoring, babysitting, gardening, painting, storytelling, give them space to be involved. Value their opinions. Let them help. When they feel useful, they feel alive. Support community. Isolation is a poison, but connection is a cure. Senior centers, adult education classes, walking groups, book clubs, these aren't just pastimes, they're lifelines. Helping someone like Rose find a group of peers she can laugh with, share stories with, lean on, that's more powerful than any pill. And normalize therapy. Mental health doesn't have an age limit. If an older adult is struggling, help them find a therapist who understands the unique challenges of aging. Depression is not a character flaw or a sign of weakness, it's an illness. And like any illness, it deserves treatment, compassion, and time. And maybe most importantly, speak up. Talk about depression and aging. Remove the shame. Share stories. Let older adults know they're not alone, that others feel what they feel, that it's okay to say, I'm not okay. There's a tragic irony in how society treats the elderly. We often forget that they were once us, and we will one day be them. The woman sitting quietly in the back pew was once a wild teenager dancing at her prom. The man who shuffles slowly with a cane once ran marathons. The old person we pass by without noticing was once someone's first love, someone's boss, someone's hero. Aging doesn't erase identity. Depression doesn't define character. But both can make people feel like they've disappeared. We must refuse to let that happen. We must remember that growing old should not mean growing invisible. That with age comes a new kind of strength, a quieter, deeper wisdom forged in decades of living. That sadness and old age is not inevitable, and that connection, dignity,
Purpose and love can restore what time has tried to take. If you have someone in your life who's older, reach out, not just on birthdays, not just when they're sick, but regularly, intentionally. Ask how they are and mean it. Visit when you can. Share meals. Include them in decisions. Remind them they're still part of the story. And if you're reading this as someone who's aging yourself, know this: you are not alone. Your feelings matter. You deserve support. And there is still so much to live for. The world still needs your voice, your presence, your light. So speak up. Ask for help. Let others in. The fog may be thick, but morning still comes. And even in the quietest season of life, there is beauty waiting to be seen, heard, and held.